Members, welcome back to the Government Operations Committee. Today is Monday, March the 24th. Madam Clerk, please take the roll. Everybody here? All right, Madam Clerk, give us a count, please.
Mr. Chairman, there are 11 members present. You have a quorum.
I appreciate that. All right, members, do we have any personal orders? We've got one. We've got a birthday celebration going on here today. Mr. Reuben Sanders, happy birthday to you, sir. All right, we've got a small calendar today. We are going to jump out of order. We're going to start with item number 2, House Bill 972 by Representative McCallum.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Representative, please present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. And members, I'm assuming, Mr. Chairman, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the amendments that are on it are traveling with it. Thank you very much. Well, members, good morning. Mr. Chairman, good morning. What House Bill 972 does is to clarify some language in the Motion Act that we passed last year. Specifically with regards to being able to utilize U.S. Postal Service, we added that back in. We changed some of the signage requirements as well as some of the towing windows we went from 48 hours to 12 hours on private property and kind of clarified some of the language. Essentially, if you have a car that's illegally parked on private property, the language specifies that you could have that vehicle towed immediately at the owner's expense. So with that, I stand ready for questions and renew my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, at this time, we have any questions for the sponsor with the bill as is? All right, Representative McKenzie, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the bill. The only concern was that change to the 12 hours. Is that going to be problematic? You know, sometimes folks can run out of gas and have to you know, takes them a little longer than that. That's why I thought the reason for the 72. I think 72 is long, but it's 12 a little too short.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep. McKenzie, this is the 12-hour window is specifically with regards to vehicles parked on private property. It's not dealing with public property. So if the owner of that private property tells the guy, hey, you know, I'm out of gas, it's going to take me a while to get it, he doesn't have to have that vehicle towed away. It just says that the 12-hour window is there, and realistically, that 12-hour window is narrow. The scope of what that owner can do. I mean, essentially, it's like I can read it right here. It's if it creates a hazard, blocks access to public or private property, or is parked illegally, that the 12 hours is moot. The owner can have it towed immediately. But I mean, if the guy runs out of gas and says, "Hey, man, do you mind if I park this here for a little bit?" You know, the owner doesn't have to have it towed.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you for the explanation. But you know, I'm just kind of thinking about someone shows up at 11 o'clock at night and can't necessarily have a conversation with the owner. I guess he or she could leave a note. Potentially, they may or may not get seen. So by 11 that next morning, they're in jeopardy of being towed. So that was my concern with that. But I understand the need for the bill. Thank you.
7 million people, 7 million possibilities. Representative, you got any closing remarks?
No, Mr. Chairman, I do not.
Okay, it does appear that we've got an amendment here by Chairman Clemens. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Chairman, what number are we working off there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment is numbered 006105.
Thank you, sir. That's what we've got here. Would you like to go ahead and tell the committee what your amendment does, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. What this bill does is simply exempts private residential property owners or residential property owners of multi-unit dwellings from the non-booting prohibition. I've received comments and concerns from multiple owners and property managers of residential property units in my district, where we have a lot of tourists coming into our neighborhoods and a lot of tourists in the area, and they're parking on residential property in front of driveways and in parking garages of residents. And they found that the most effective tool that they had to prevent this was booting. So I just want to exempt that small category from that booting prohibition. And with that, I'd ask for your adoption.
Members, you've heard an explanation. Do you have any questions for the sponsor of the amendment? Seeing none, and to the sponsor of the bill. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Hardaway, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. And just in support of the amendment, it seems like a good compromise in terms of if I'm a private property owner and I want some immediate action and I want to make sure you don't come back, the boot might do the trick. And if I'm the owner of the vehicle, it's a lot easier for me to deal right there on the site with the boot, as opposed to finding out where my car is and trying to get over there and hope everything is still in it, et cetera. So I speak in support of that amendment and urge you to accept it as a friendly amendment.
Chairman McCallum, do you have any response?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Hardaway, I mean, if you boot a vehicle that's blocking the access to your driveway, that doesn't do anything to move the vehicle out of the way of your driveway. Last year with this particular piece of legislation, we had a provision in there for any municipality to adopt a booting ordinance if they wanted to indeed have that practice. There wasn't a single municipality in the state that wanted to enact that practice. So if effectively we're just leaving it banned as is. I would argue that towing a vehicle out of your driveway is a lot more effective than putting a boot on it, hoping that that person comes back quickly. They may be parked there and that car will stay booted in your driveway for hours before the owner of the vehicle comes back. So towing it, to me, having it towed out would be far more effective at removing the vehicle off the property.
Thank you for that explanation.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, there are going to be a number of situations. I haven't needed a tow truck in a while, but when I did, it usually took a while. So I'll just say I think in the long run that you have a point, but I still think that his amendment allows more flexibility in terms of ensuring both sides are going to reach a reasonable and fair conclusion. So thank you.
Chairman McCallum, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Hardaway. I hope you never find yourself in a position where you're going to need a tow truck. So I wish you well in that endeavor. And Mr. Chairman, I renew my motion.
All right, with that, members. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I'm calling the sponsor. I'm not calling the tow truck.
I'll come pick you up, sir.
all right, with that, members, we'll do a voice vote as to whether or not to add this amendment. All in favor of adding the amendment 6105 indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Noes have it. Amendment fails. Members, any more questions about the bill? Representative Renaud, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies for being late, so I may have missed the answer to these questions. Do I understand that this bill, or at least when I read it, it looked like that the previous language did not have fees, and this is adding penalties for parking garages or folks who may have cars that stay in a lot or wherever for longer than they should?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am not aware that we added any additional penalties. I'll have to go back and recheck that. It is a pretty lengthy bill. This was primarily a cleanup bill from last year's legislation. There was some muddy language in there, and what we sought to do with this bill is just to clarify it. With the exception of adding in U.S. Postal Service, we took that out in last year's legislation. What we ended up doing is going back and saying, yes, you can indeed use U.S. Postal Service, but it has to be 3 days or sooner. But I'm not aware that we changed anything with regards to penalties. I'll double check on that, but it was primarily a cleanup bill.
Representative Renaud, you're recognized.
At least in the amendment, there was one particular concern for my district anyway, that we've had several issues with in regards to difficulties in parking garages when machines or payment options fail. And in here, it's on page 10, it does say that if the parking fees are not paid within 72 hours, my concern on this is that Kumar's bill that was passed last year, that was TCA 47-50-120, basically said that if someone was in a parking garage and there was a malfunction, that they had to post an alternative way to pay. And if after 72 hours they didn't do so, then essentially they would forego the opportunity to get that payment. In this amendment, if the parking failure occurs, let's say on a Friday, 72 hours on a holiday weekend, it would not give someone the opportunity, most likely the parking company or garage, maybe not manned, where they couldn't get a phone call in, or a payment could not be received in that time period. And so then they would end up having their vehicle towed when they had attempted or tried to make the correct, make their fees good. So that was my only concern, is if this negates Kumar's bill, because we have this issue in Chattanooga quite a bit. And I have been the victim of that myself, where I've gone to pay and the machine doesn't work. So
Chairman Kalman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep. Renaud, I don't believe it does anything to Representative Kumar's bill. Last year's bill did not either. It is still, you still have to have an alternative method of taking payment. So I look at Representative Kumar's bill as kind of the sister bill to the Motion Act.
okay, thank you.
You're recognized.
One other question. It looks like here that the portal that's being created gives an extended time on when the report must be made from 15 minutes to 1 hour. I was just curious what the delay in that reporting, why we would need to go from 15 minutes to 1 hour.
You're recognized.
I think that was a procedural thing with revenue. I'm not quite sure. I could find out as to why we made that change, but I would imagine that was just a feasibility thing with the Department of Revenue.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, would you open the vote, please?
Representative Renaud, you need to push in your.
All right, everybody in favor? You know what to do. Has everybody voted? Anybody wish to change their vote? All right, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 9 ayes and 0 noes.
There are 4 no's.
4. My apologies.
All right.
Bad
so
day. 4 noes.
9 ayes, 4 nays. All right, bill passes, and we'll move out to on the way to Finance, Ways and Means. Thanks, sir. We'll back to item number 1. Chairman Sparks, House Bill 66. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. House Bill 66, we rolled a week for some, Representative Renaud had some concerns with one of our local representatives. I believe that was addressed. So I'd like to seek passage on this. Basically what this bill is, the requirement applies only to residential information, street address for any county, municipal, or other public employee. This came to me from my local mayor of Laverne and Laverne City Administrator Bruce Richardson to keep local employees' information private, much like state employees are today, sir. With that being said, appreciate the passage.
Members, any questions? Seeing none. Members, looks like we're ready to vote. Mr. Clerk, please open the board. Place your votes. Everybody voted? Anybody looking to change a vote? All right, Mr. Clerk, please register the vote.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 14 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you for that, Mr. Clerk, and you're off to
Thank you,
calendar
sir.
and rules.
All right, thank you.
Fast forward to item number 3. By Representative Hale. We have a motion. We have a second. It's on House Bill 712. Representative Hale, you are recognized, sir.
You're good. You're good. Thank you, Committee and Chair. House Bill 712 was brought to me by the Tennessee Disability Coalition to support family caregivers of Tennessee with family members with disability and chronic illnesses. The goal of this bill is to provide a clear pathway for qualified family caregivers to be hired by home and community-based services. Does two things. First, the bill asks TennCare and the Department of Disability and Aging to work together to develop clear guidelines and processes for provider agencies to hire family members to provide care. Secondly, the bill standardizes access to ensure that family members are not disqualified based on relation status, where they live, how old the person receiving the care is, and what services the programs that they're enrolled in. So with that, I stand for question.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Representative Fritz, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor. And I appreciate the heart of this bill. When I look at this bill and the next one, I'm not trying to get on the other bill with this conversation, but it seems to be closely tied. Is there a relationship between this and 717 and the fiscal note at all?
You're recognized.
Not that I know of.
And follow up.
Your bill has no fiscal note on it. Is that correct?
That's correct. If I could, these services are already being offered, paid for by TennCare. This is just saying that they're able to hire family members, which many of them are having to quit jobs to be able to do that. So this just gives them a way to be able to be paid for the caregiving.
Thank you so much.
Members, any other questions? Oh, Representative Hardaway, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you for the bill, sponsor. So this is going to make them eligible for just Medicaid or also for private reimbursement?
You're recognized.
What this bill does, Representative Hardaway, is they're already getting these services through TennCare. This just allows for them to hire family members. For instance, if my wife had to quit her job to take care of me, rather than hiring an outside person, they're able to pay that family member to help provide that care for those loved ones.
All right. Thank you, sir. And thank you for the bill.
Members, any other questions? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, would you please open the board? Members, place your votes. Everyone voted? Anyone wishing to change a vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 14 ayes and 0 noes.
All right, thank you for that. The bill passes out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, committee and chair.
Next up, item number 4, House Bill 717 by Representative Jones. It looks like we have a substitute. Chairman Hicks, welcome. We have a motion. We have a second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Representative Jones couldn't be here this morning, so I told her I'd fill in. I'll do the best I can. This is a bill that creates a fund for Caring for Caregivers Act, which is sets up a fund for those that cares for those with Alzheimer's to be able to get some funds to help with that. It's a great bill that a lot of people are supporting. So the commissioner promulgates the rules to effectuate this chapter in accordance with Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that presentation. We've got to, let's slow down on that for just a second. Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill for Representative Jones. I appreciate it. Having a mother who passed from dementia, it's a terrible burden on the family members. And I won't burden you with this question because I know you're carrying it forward, but there does seem to be a connection between the last two bills that we heard as far as no fiscal note, and then this one has one. And I'd be interested in moving forward with this, what that connection is. But again, I support what you're doing, and I think it's good for families. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
And it does look like, members, we've got an amendment that Representative Jones has brought. You familiar?
Not at all, Chairman.
All right.
Sorry.
All right, members, interesting situation I've not seen yet. Without Representative Jones being here, let's go ahead and move the bill out unamended and let her amend it in finance. All right, members, seeing no further questions, looks like we're ready to vote. Mr. Clerk, please open the board. Looks like we got everybody voted. Anybody want to change a vote? Seeing none. We've got, Mr. Clerk, take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 14 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you for that. You are on your way now to Finance, Ways and Means. Thank you, Representative, Chairman Hicks.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Excuse me one second. Chairman Sherrill, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. We have some folks out in the audience we'd like to recognize, and we have Mr. Phil Oldham. He's the president of Tennessee Tech, and I think his wife and maybe some with him. If you would, make them welcome, please. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Members, next item up is mine, House Bill 279. So we will pass that down. Chairman Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 5 on the calendar, members, House Bill 279. We do have a motion and a second. Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized on your bill, sir.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. This bill extends Tennessee Tech Board of Trustees to 2030. And we do have, as has been noted, President here on hand if anybody would have any questions for him. Other than that, I'll renew my motion.
Thank you for those introductions. Any questions, Representative Fritz? If it would please the chairman and the committee, I would like to hear about the nuclear engineering program at Tennessee Tech. I'm excited about that. It's important to Tennessee's future. If that's something that President be willing to talk about. Without objection, we'll go out of session. Please come forward. We will operate the microphones for you and introduce yourselves for the record and to the committee.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Phil Oldham, President of Tennessee Tech University, and I'm here with Trudy Harper, our board chair at Tennessee Tech, proud resident of Soddy Daisy, Tennessee. Right. So the question is about nuclear engineering, I believe. We're excited about that. It's something we've been working on for a couple of years. We were approved to start that program this last fall, and we successfully launched the program, actually relaunched it. It was discontinued at Tech maybe 20 years ago. And so actually exceeded our enrollment goals for the first year. And we have a substantial number of freshman applications already lined up for this next fall. So it's off to a great start already.
Thank you for that information. Representative Fritz, you got further questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick questions. As far as the initial cohort, where do you envision them being employed? What do you think is going to be your recruiting direction for those young men and women? And what is the size of the cohort? And then lastly, is there a specific part of the nuclear engineering discipline that you plan to pursue with this? Are you going after criticality safety specialists or what?
Mr. Oldham?
Yeah, so great questions. We initially intended, I think, to have 10 students in the first cohort. I think we ended up with 18. So it's a great start. And I'll be honest with you, I was initially, let me just say, Ms. Harper that's with me, she's an engineer as well, electrical engineer. I can let her give her background if you want her to, but she's out of the power industry, and she was the toughest sell that I had on restarting our nuclear program. So the question about where they'll be employed, that was my biggest question to begin with, actually. And in meeting with a number of leaders in the nuclear power industry, I was my fears were calmed really quickly. One individual said he would hire everyone we would graduate. And so that doesn't seem to be an issue. I think, as all of you know, the nuclear power industry and all the related industries to that is growing substantially here in Tennessee, but it's also growing nationwide. The demand for electricity is driving a lot of that. And, there's still a lot of unknowns about how nuclear is going to play into this, but the industry is really bullish about it, and we've been convinced as well. And the student interest is definitely there.
Thank you. Ms. Harper, would you care to elaborate on that question as well?
Well, since he said I was a hard sell, I guess I better explain that. I intended to be a nuclear engineer. That's what I intended to do. As Dr. Oldham said, I grew up in Saudi Daisy and I watched the Sequoia nuclear plant be built. Graduated high school, though, in 1979. And those of you who are old enough to remember, that was the year of 3 Mile Island and the movie The China Syndrome. And I thought to myself, I don't think this is a good career path. And so we actually terminated our nuclear program while I was there in the 80s. So it's been quite a number of years. I was very concerned about the very question you asked, who's going to employ these kids? And it is, it's amazing to me what the industry has done. And I will say, I'm not sure we know who's going to employ them because I'm not sure we understand who's going to be in that space in even 5 years from now. The traditional utilities are not probably going to be in that space, but I think there's a huge amount of private industry. And that's actually the part of the business I came out of was unregulated generation development. So I think that's where you're going to see them working.
Representative Fritz. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one follow-up and maybe a suggestion in this. Back when I was a young guy and couldn't spell uranium probably, I got an opportunity to do the nuclear criticality course at Los Alamos.
Oh, wow.
And so that's been moved to Nevada now. And just curious and thoughtful, is that something, I don't know that UT pursues that with their nuke program, but boy, that would be something that could put our students at Tennessee Tech and UT, I do have my orange on, ahead of everybody else. If we could somehow get tied in with the Department of Energy to be, because those students would get to calculate K effective of the mass. They would get to bring the mass to critical. And those are important, I think, learning features, not just for the technical side of what we're developing these young people to be, but also the leadership role so they can help other people who have a hard time conceptualizing what the K effective of that mass is to better understand it. So thank you all for what you're doing.
That's a great point. I think our program, to your question, our program will focus a lot on maybe the less traditional areas of nuclear fuel, recycling, processing, those kinds of issues that may be lost. And our goal is not to duplicate other programs, really is to hopefully find out where the puck is going and skate to the puck.
Thank you. Any further Representative Hardaway?
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm not going to get into all the technical and scientific aspects of it, but I would like to know that my water is safe, that our water in West Tennessee in particular, our aquifers, 2,000 years old, we sometimes call it Jesus water, that you would assure me that what you're doing won't jeopardize our aquifers.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I grew up in West Tennessee myself, and so I would concur that the water resources, our natural resources in Tennessee, are very important, and we would certainly do everything to protect that. And we do. We have a water center at Tennessee Tech that thinks about those things a lot as well. And so these are, in my view, these are not mutually exclusive. We can find a way to get the energy that we need and protect the resources as well.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Chairman. And in terms of how we start to recruit our young folks at an early age, and this is for both of you, online instruction. Are we pulling dual enrollment opportunities along for our high school students or perhaps our middle school students?
Yes, and I'll let Ms. Harper join in it because she's actually benefited, I think, from a lot of that dual enrollment in her career. But we're seeing more and more impact of dual enrollment on successful completion of degrees, and we encourage students to take advantage of that. It's probably well, let me put it this way: for a state university, about half the cost of getting an undergraduate degree is living expenses. So anytime you reduce the time to degree is a significant scholarship. So we have students coming in as first-time freshmen with a semester or more of dual enrollment credits under their belt already, that's a significant cost savings to them in the long run. It reduces student debt. It gets them out into their career quicker. And we see that reflected in the success rates at Tennessee Tech. We're big fans of dual enrollment at Tech, but I'll let Ms. Harper tell your own story.
Well, again, my own history is that I think I was in the very first cohort that did dual enrollment with Chattanooga State and the Hamilton County schools. And so I started Tennessee Tech in 1979 with almost a full year's worth of credit. And so it allowed me to finish my electrical engineering degree in 4 years instead of 5, which I probably would have had to take if I had not knocked a lot of that out. So I'm a huge fan of that. It was big for my family and it was great for me personally. You also asked about online, and we offer a lot of online opportunities for our students, but I think what we find is that our students actually want to be in class. At least those are our students. That's not everybody, of course, but we find that most of our students want to be on the ground instead of sitting in front of a screen at home. So, but we have a lot of online offerings, particularly in the graduate programs where somebody might not be local in Cookeville.
Representative Hardaway, any further questions, comments?
Just the last comment. Thank you for the work you do. And just if you've got some ideas about how AI has impacted your program, either as a self-contained curriculum or impacting the other academic programs, if you share that with us. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think the AI is an evolving issue on probably all of our campuses, and it's certainly true at Tennessee Tech. I think our faculty have done a really good job with the leadership of our provost to set some sort of boundary conditions around the use of AI and how it can most effectively be utilized in the classroom and in other ways. I think you're going to find that it's going to be an incredibly useful tool, but we've got to understand it better and continue to be on the front edge of that, and that's what we're attempting to do. So we'll keep you updated with the things that we learn as we go, but it is being utilized to some extent in the classroom now. Some faculty utilize it, others choose not to, and that's within our policy and gives them the opportunity to make best use of it.
Thank you for that testimony on what you're doing. Great new generation of folks coming online. Any further questions, comments for our guests? Seeing none, once again, thank you for being with us.
Thank
Back
you.
into session. Any questions for the chairman on this piece of legislation? Seeing none, clerk, please open the board for the vote. Everyone take their vote. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, clerk, take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 12 ayes and 0 noes.
Bill moves out to calendar and rules. Members, last item on our calendar, item number 6, House Bill 288. Chairman Lafferty, we've got a motion and a second. You're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a caption bill that I have, and I do have an amendment that will make the bill.
The drafting code of that amendment, please.
004303.
Can I get a motion? We've got a motion and a second on the amendment. At this time, we will go ahead and add it to the bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, nay. Amendment goes on to the bill. Chairman Lafferty, you are ready for discussion on House Bill 288.
Thank you, Chairman. This amendment simply deletes some outdated references to agencies that either no longer exist or have changed their names. It adds the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact as well as the Tennessee Child Fatality Prevention Team to the sunset cycle for 2026. Ultimately, this is a cleanup bill. And with that, I'll renew my motion.
Thank you for that information. Any questions, comments for the chairman on the bill? Representative Hardaway, you're recognized.
Thank you. And to the chairman, I plan to vote for your bill, so I want to make sure the veterans are going to be okay with me. This is not going to diminish or delete any of the veteran services. We're just talking about language in the current statute.
Chairman Lafferty?
No, sir, you are correct.
All right.
It will not.
Thank you.
Hardaway? Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? Clerk, open the board for the vote, please. Members, cast your vote. Are any members wishing to change their vote? Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 12 ayes and 0 noes.
Bill moves out to calendar and rules. Chairman Lafferty, the gavel's yours, sir.
I appreciate you, Chairman. Thank you for that. Members, that's it for the calendar. We've got our monthly rule review next Monday, March 31st at 9 a.m. We will meet right here in House Hearing Room 1. Sorry to report, but I'll repeat it again, 9 a.m. next Monday. We'll see you back here. Do I have a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned.